AFTV, Luton Town 3, Arsenal 4. Nick, it wasn't pretty, but we got there in the end.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of Bournemouth last year, man. Do you know what I mean? We love a late goal. We're turning into a clutch team. I heard you calling for Reece Nelson. I was getting Reece Nelson vibes. To be fair, I call for Reece Nelson every week, and he rarely comes on. But I'm going to keep calling for him anyway. But yeah, man, listen, grinding out results. We either slap teams 3-4, 5-0, or we grind out an ugly result. And you know, it's good to know that we can do both.
No, absolutely. And what do you put that down to today? Because obviously we go into this game, Luton are struggling around the relegation zone. We should be comfortably beating a team like Luton, in all honesty, regardless of any sort of rotation. Do you think that Arsenal came into this game underestimating Luton Town a little bit?
I don't think so. I think that we underestimated their work rate. I think that we underestimated their physicality. I think we had maybe 2 or 3 players that were consistently winning physical duels. I think Jesus consistently won physical duels. Rice, everybody else, maybe Saliba, everybody else was getting bodied in a physical challenge. I mean, they were just there, not quite there first of all, not quite the sharpest. We tried to play our football. They immediately set up to stop us from playing our football, which I really rated. It was good to see from them. I said on the stream, and I'll say again that the stats for them look awful, but they really aren't a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. The way they play football, very brave. They possibly, you can make an argument, deserve something from today. But I think it was individual errors. I know people hate the XG stats. They didn't even have an XG of like 0.4 or something like that. It was quite low. We created lots of chances. We had. I'm not going to say we dominated the ball or dominated the game, but the cleaner cut chances from us. Lots of our goals come from open play. Their goals come from set pieces. But when you play teams down in the relegation zone, just up from the Championship, they're going to rely on physicality. They're going to rely on maybe some fouls. They're going to rely on the ref. And they're going to rely on set pieces. And that's what they did today.
Absolutely. You mentioned the ref there, and I think you know what I'm going to here. Not necessarily the ref as per se, but there was 2 fairly obvious penalty decisions that should have been given our way there. VAR strikes again.
Before we even get to VAR, I mean, the ref was inconsistent. There were mounting challenges time after time after time, mounting fouls that weren't getting yellows. Once he gave a yellow, he gave 2 Luton players yellows for accumulative fouls. And then Gabby Jesus makes his first foul of the game, immediately gets a yellow card. So that immediately is not consistent. Then you've got the 2 fouls. The Saka one, if I'm being really, really, really critical, maybe they play some sort of advantage because he does get the pass off before there's contact. Of course, in that situation, you always take the penalty before you take the advantage. But okay, the Gabriel one, there's no excuse for it. He's jumped up. He's able to make contact with the ball, but he's pulled down by his shirt. How that's not a penalty, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if there was a review for it.
There was a review, but it was no penalty.
Yeah, well, then I don't know what it takes to be given a penalty then. Do you know what I mean? We see people rolling around the floor. We don't want to see that. I'm a physical player myself when I play football. I like the physical side of the game. But a foul's a foul. You can't body check someone when there's no ball involved, and you can't pull somebody's shirt and pull them to the floor, especially when they're off balance. We saw a goal disallowed against Liverpool because Alisson's shoulder was pulled down. It was pulled down by the gentlest of touches, but ultimately you can't pull the player's shoulder down when he's jumping in the air. You can't do that. So it's a clear-cut penalty.
Absolutely. I'm sure it'll be all made up for with an apology from PGMOL. I don't want to dwell on the negatives too much, so I'll try and get that out of the way as soon as possible. David Raya.
Very good. David Raya, yeah, I mean, Arteta's managed this entire situation incorrectly. He's putting more and more pressure on David Raya. He is putting potentially some of his ego ahead of a player that...
I think you've hit the nail right on. It's an ego situation.
It's an ego situation, and I said in the post-game, and I'll say it again here, the smart thing to do for Ramsdale, for Raya, for the team, for Arteta himself, is to rotate David Raya. He's come out of all the PR about there isn't a dedicated number 1. We've got 2 number 1s. Well, then let's see them be rotated then, because if that is true, then dropping him for the game against Aston Villa shouldn't mean that he's dropped forever. He can work his way back in. We had something very similar with Kai Havertz. He was playing awfully, and Arteta seemed determined to play him in every minute of every game. And ultimately, he was forced to rotate him because the performances were that bad. And then now he's starting to pay dividends. He's got back-to-back 3 games in a row he scored.
3 games in a row.
3 games in a row that Kai Havertz has scored now. So, and I think the last few seasons he's averaged 6 to 9 goals a season. He's on 3 back-to-back on the really busy run-up. So hopefully he hits some form. But that's the way that he should handle this situation now. He needs to be consistent as a manager and handle Raya exactly the same way he's handled Havertz. And Havertz cost 65 million. Raya hasn't cost anywhere near that.
Okay, completely understand. You mentioned Havertz, and I want to move on to the positives now. I think he had another decent performance, and I think a few more that you could mention, maybe Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Jesus, maybe even Martinelli. Who would you say was your man of the match today?
It's between Rice, Jesus, and Saka. I think maybe Rice overall, just because it's between Rice and Jesus actually, because Saka's job is it's not an easy job, but it's more one-dimensional. You know, he's got to receive the ball, try and beat his man, and either get a shot away or get a cross in. He's got to do that for 90 minutes. What Rice and what Gabby Jesus have to do is way more complicated. They have to physically fight all game, and so does Saka because he's getting fouled and receiving the ball. I understand that, but Jesus and Rice, physical battles all around the pitch, getting shots on goal, you know, playing a bit of a quarterback role at times, setting things up, being a leader in the middle of the park. You know, what Rice has to do today to get us over the line, having the mentality to beat his man in the air. Even when he's made a mistake that's cost us a chance or cost us a goal, he's the person going right up the upper end and putting it right. And so I think that really, really strong mentality for me is what makes him man of the match.
Absolutely. Obviously, we've got the 3 points today. Some would say we won ugly. Some others would say, you know, sign of champions. Where do you stand on the performance today?
Oh, it was beautiful. The reason I say that, I mean, for years we've been told that, you know, Arsenal, we get pretty footballers, but we can't play. You rough them up and they can't play. Teams are roughing us up time and time and time again, and they're struggling to stop us. You know, the Newcastle game is the only time we got roughed up and stopped, so we gave as good as we got. That's why we're praising Havertz. We're not praising him because he's the best player in the world, but we're praising him because he refuses to get bullied. He refuses to make himself small. He's going to keep stepping up. And so, you know, for us, winning ugly is what we struggled to do. All the way from the late Wenger years, we could play the most beautiful football in the world, 70% possession, all the passing stats, and not actually grind out a result. And now we've got a couple of people in the team that can help us grind out results. And if you give us the opportunities, we can blow teams away as well. So I will take having some big, strong players and winning ugly every day of the week. Don't bother me whatsoever.
Completely agree. Now we move on. Saturday, Villa Park. Tough place to go to. They're a decent side at the moment. Confident of a win?
Yeah, I think, you know, listen, we just won at the mighty Kenilworth Road. Do you know what I mean? So no, but I think
I don't know if mighty is the word I'd use.
we have a good record at Villa Park. We have a pretty good record at Villa Park, and they're playing tomorrow against Manchester City. So that will be Man City have a couple of key players out, but that will be a really taxing game. We have a day's extra rest. Tomiyasu should be back. We've got a lot of pieces on the chessboard that we can play with should Arteta want to play with them the right way, in a certain way. Even the substitutions that he made they didn't impact the game immediately, but they added a different dimension, created a bit of space, and then it's Odegaard that can whip the ball in for Rice. So we've got a lot of players there that we can tinker with and kind of try and figure out a way. And I think with the talent and the manager that we've got, we should be able to figure out a result. I wouldn't even take a draw. No, I wouldn't take a draw, but we should be going in 3 points. You know, Villa are very, very good manager. We know what the manager's all about, but we're looking at titles here. And so we have to go to everywhere. Sure, you've got Old Trafford, you've got Anfield, you've got the Etihad. There you go. Oof, you know, maybe I'll take a point. I'll chuck Old Trafford out of that, actually. But, you know, everywhere else we should be going, actually. We should be backing ourselves. And listen, if we're here next week on Saturday and we're disappointed, that's fine. But we should back ourselves to go to most grounds or all grounds in this league and go for 3 points.
Okay. Thank you, Nick.
Cheers, mate.